So, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions, and discuss them in a video. This week, there has been a lot happening, both on and off the court in the NBA world, and the storylines and action have been non-stop, with teams and players surprising us on a nightly basis. And because of this, we definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. As the NBA season continues to progress, PrizePicks is the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy to stay engaged on all of the excitement. All you have to do is pick between 2 and 5 players and the over or under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times your original entry. Choose between points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers made, fantasy points, and more. Plus, you can even make mixed sports entries, so if you also happen to be a fan of sports like football, soccer, or anything else, PrizePicks has you covered. When you play at PrizePicks, you're also not competing against anyone else, it's simply you versus the projections available. As for the picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm looking at Desmond Bane to score over 20.5 points, Lauri Markkanen to score over 19.5 points, and Jordan Clarkson to grab under 4.5 rebounds. By going down to the link in the description of this video and using promo code REFERENCE when you sign up, you also get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from DaBabyFan, and he says that the Utah Jazz are not a fluke at all, they're just an incredibly deep and balanced team, and he even goes as far as to say that they're a top 3 team in the West. So before we get into all of this, I'll just say that I do think them finishing in the top 3 of the conference is a pretty huge reach, and unrealistic over the course of an 82-game season. Top 3 in the conference infers that they are a championship contending team with a chance to make a deep run, and I'm sorry, but that is still very much out of reach for them at this point in time. However, with that being said, I don't think the first part of his take is off base at all, really. The Jazz very quietly built a roster this summer with players that can contribute in all different aspects of the game. When you look at their roster, you may not see a single star or go-to guy that can take over and go head-to-head with opposing stars, but when you watch them play, they're just a well-oiled machine playing completely selfless basketball, playing together, and working hard on both ends of the floor. Lauri Markkanen has been their primary standout performer, and he's averaging about 22 points per game, so he may be having a star-caliber breakout year, and this is something that feels long overdue for him. In his first 2 seasons of his career, he looked like a guy who could be on the trajectory to eventually become a star in the league, but then over his next 3 seasons, he regressed pretty hard, and those hopes were somewhat killed off. He's a 7-foot shot creator with a unique ability to create offense and shoot the basketball, and he just wasn't able to be as efficient doing it as you would have liked over the last couple years. This season, he's shooting the ball 52% from the field so far, which is a huge upgrade, but he's actually only been making below 30% of his 3-point attempts, which is abnormally low for a shooter of his caliber, so he actually has room to improve even more as that reverts back to the mean. We've seen teams in the past like the Atlanta Hawks of 2015 emerge as playoff contenders without elite superstar level talent, and that's the kind of vibe that this Jazz team gives off to me. I just feel as though it's going to be a lot harder for them to maintain it over the next 72 games. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Daniel, and he says that ever since Russell Westbrook has begun coming off of the bench, he's looked pretty good and should be in contention for the 6th Man of the Year award. This switch to bringing Russell Westbrook off of the bench has been something that Lakers fans have been calling for a while, as Russ's struggles to mesh with the Lakers over the last year or so has resulted in rising tensions that eventually boiled over. Westbrook is a former MVP winner and all-star, so obviously accepting that you are not the player that you used to be can be difficult, and I know Russ's time in LA has not been easy for him, but now that he has embraced this role, he has absolutely been looking like a whole new player. When he subs in with the second unit, he's been able to run the show with a full green light, and because of it, he looks a lot less tentative and hesitant. He's not overthinking things as much, and is back to playing in attack mode, putting pressure on defenses, and his production has soared in the 4 games that he has been coming off of the bench, compared to what he was doing when he was in the starting lineup, averaging about 19 points, 7 assists, and 7 rebounds, while shooting the ball 51% from the field and 41% from 3 in this span. It was starting to look bleak for Russ not too long ago, and people were legitimately asking if he would be out of the league after this year, but if he can fully buy into a bench role moving forward, his value for teams will skyrocket. The problem with his 6th Man of the Year case, though, will probably come down to the fact that the Lakers still just aren't a very good team. 6th Man of the Year has typically gone to bench players who not only produce at a high level, but do so for a playoff team helping the group win games, and if the Lakers flame out again like they did last year, then his hopes will probably be dead. Otherwise, there is plenty of positive to take from Russ's current situation, which is a refreshing change. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Mike, and he says that the Cavaliers are conference finals locks, barring injury, and he wouldn't be surprised if they won the East this year. This season, a lot of the typical and expected top dogs in the Eastern Conference are off to slow starts, including the 76ers, Nets, and Heat, who are all 4-6 right now. If those teams aren't quite as good as initially advertised, then the Cavaliers will gladly step in and take their place, and early on, they're looking every bit like a contender. I think a lot of us forgot that last season, the Cavaliers were sitting in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference standings for about half of the season, and injuries were what derailed their ability to finish off a breakout season, and that's why it was smart for the original take to include that little caveat, because now this year, when healthy, they're even better, and Donovan Mitchell has been playing like a match made in heaven for them. Darius Garland has actually been injured early on this year, but Mitchell has taken over the offense and lit it up at an MVP level in his absence. Now that Garland is also back on the floor back from that injury, they're going to get even better. They may have the best backcourt in the NBA, they have a dominant defensive frontcourt in Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen holding things down inside, and I think it would be foolish to count them out as a team that can make a deep run. Now, would I call them a lock to make it all the way? No, of course not. Nothing is a lock right now for any team. However, they definitely look as good as anybody in the NBA at the moment. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.